And today I wanted to talk a little bit about um, cultural nationalism versus revolutionary nationalism. And there's a big difference. It's not just nationalism is nationalism. There's many different forms. Cultural nationalism is also known as bourgeois nationalism. And bourgeois nationalism or narrow nationalism is very bad. It's very bad. It's actually poison to the people. It doesn't lead to a revolutionary society. So, if we look back to Huey Newton, the one of the leaders and founders of the Black Panther Party, called cultural nationalism pork chop nationalism, and he called it pork chop nationalism because in reference to the cultural uh, aspect of people, and he was referring to the Black nation, of course, but just because they have hairstyles and different forms of dress, um, you know. Um, it doesn't, just because they wear a daishiki, he felt that, that's not going to lead to a revolutionary society. You can embrace your culturally. It's very important. Our cura is very important as Chicanos. Our culture is very important. And it is one of the aspects that defines us as a nation. However, culturalism in itself is not going to lead to revolution. To rely simply on one's cultural people's culture, and practicing it and promoting it is good, but if that's all there is and there's no political content to it, then all you're going to be reaching, when it comes to the Chicano nation, for those Chicanos who embrace the culture, embrace the cultura, and that's all they're focusing on. That's good to focus on cultura, to embrace cultura. However, to simply rely on cultura is not going to lead to a revolutionary society. It's actually going to lead to brown capitalism, to Chicano capitalism, which is poison. It's wrong. It's bad. So we don't want just a new capitalist society. We don't want brown faces in high places. We want a redistribution of everything that we have coming. All of our resources. We don't want them in the pockets of just a handful of people. We don't want another ruling class, even if it's a Chicano ruling class. So we don't want that, because we believe, the Chicano nation, that exploitation is wrong. It's wrong if Chicanos exploit Chicano labor, or if the white nation or any other nation exploits Chicano labor. And so this is one of the things that we can't focus simply on cultura. We embrace cultura and we promote it, but we also couple that with political understanding of our social reality. And we understand that we have to, rebuild our entire society, and specifically in the economic realm. We have to, we don't want capitalism, and cultural nationalism simply leads to brown capitalism for the Chicano nation and for other oppressed nations people as well. If Kins simply focused on black culture, it's going to lead them to black capitalism. If First Nations people simply focused on First Nations culture, and they form a government, it's going to be a capitalist society. There's going to be haves and have-nots. There's going to be owners and and houseless people. So we don't want that. We don't want unequal societies. And so we understand, the Chicano nation understands that there is an economic aspect that is capitalism, that we will fight against. We do not want that. And that's why it's important that we understand the poisons, the ills of cultural nationalism. Cultural nationalism is an enemy ideology. It is not for the people. It works to build a new form of capitalism, um, according to this nation. In this case, we're talking the Chicano nation. So, cultural nationalists. So let me give some examples of cultural nationalism. Cultural nationalism for the Chicano nation would be people who embrace Chicano culture. They may, eat the same foods as us. They may listen to the same musics. They may perform the same dances. They may perform the same ceremonies, and they may do all of this. And they may organize in the community, in the Chicano community. They may build organizations or groups that are cultural. But when it comes to politics, um, they don't address it. So you can't do away with any forms of oppression by ignoring them. They're not going to go away. They're not going to go away. So if there's a group, a cultural group, and they embrace everything Chicano, whether that's dress, dance, cultural ceremony, what have you, and yet they're not addressing the political reality, and the economic uh, unequalness that exists in this society, which today is capitalism we deal with. If they're not addressing capitalism, but they have a group that's cultural and that may promote everything Chicano. They may have Chicano clothing. They may have, Chicano food, music. They may have these groups that dance and, all of that, but they're not addressing capitalism. Then they're cultural nationalists. And they're and what they're saying is they're okay with capitalism. They're okay with profiting off other people's labor. They're okay with the exploitation of other people. They're okay with capitalism. And that is not going to lead to a revolutionary society. It's going to lead to, if these same individuals that promote cultural nationalism or have these organizations, have these groups, if they were to take power today, they would be running a country that is brown capitalist, Chicano capitalist, and that's the enemy. So we don't want to help, we don't want to promote, we don't want to work with cultural nationalists if they are not willing to part um, with the capitalist nature of their work. And so this is something that we have to understand in order to overcome it. We can't overcome something that we don't understand. Cultural nationalism, is going to lead us into another society that is exactly like the U.S., except with Chicano people, as a president, and this is what the cultural nationalists strive for. They strive to see Chicano presidents, Chicano governors, Chicano mayors. These folks are bougie. They're bourgeois. The ideology of the bourgeoisie, of the middle class, of the ruling class, of big business. They want to be business. They're about their money. That's what they're about. They're about their money, and all of that. And they're, either they don't care, or they are just ignorant to understand that when somebody's just about their money, that money's coming from somewhere. Where's it coming from? It's coming from the exploited labor of their people or other oppressed peoples. So people who think like that are wrong. And many times, and today, especially with the bourgeois elections that are happening right now, here in these false U.S. borders, we see a lot of Chicano people who are, they are very engaged in the bourgeois elections. By being engaged and participating in these bougie elections, they are upholding the same framework that allows for oppression to exist. And what do they politicians or these presidents, and we're not going to struggle against them? They've become our enemy because they are in the same position doing the same things that we are fighting against. We are fighting against oppression, and capitalism is oppression. It doesn't matter if you paint, the title of, I'm the leader of this office or that office, or what have you. If it's an office that's connected to the capitalist system, then you're just as bad as whether that politician's a white politician, whether he's part of the ruling class, whether it's a Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. And you'll find a lot of cultural nationalists who do join these American political parties and groups, and and they do this, and because at the end of the day, their goal is to get up there in office. They want to be mayor, they want to be governor, they want to be president of these false U.S. borders. So this is, we have to understand that cultural nationalism is a dead end road. It's poison to the people. It's actually enemy politics. So we do not, at Free Aslan, we do not like cultural nationalists. So let me talk a little bit about revolutionary nationalism. So, we here at Free Aslan are revolutionary nationalists. So this is what this means is that we are national. We understand that there is a need for a form of nationalism for the Chicano nation and all oppressed nations people. However, we also understand deeply that we are focusing on dismantling all forms of oppression, including the economic system that exists here, and that is capitalism. We are against capitalism, and so so revolutionary nationalists, yeah, we're for our people. We believe that it's very important to organize one's own people, whether that's in an organization, a political party, a group, what have you. It's very important because nobody's going to fight for your people like you. And here, in multiculturalism today, affects many people, including people in the quote unquote activist community, those self-proclaimed activists. They may be doing good deeds here and there. They may, you know, feed the homeless or what have you, or do, those are good deeds. However, we have to do more than that. We have to do more than that. And many people who do these good deeds in the community, they may feel, that they're helping, and in some way they are relieving some of the oppression going on. However, it has to go deeper than that. And it's not going to go through the state's political apparatus. We're not going to solve. We're not going to become free by putting on the oppressor's uniform and working within the U.S. government. That's not going to solve our social ills as Chicano people, as the Chicano nation. So it is important to organize within one's own group. I think that here in these false U.S. borders, that white supremacy has been so embedded for so long and has been so deep into not just the social fabric, but the psyche of the people, including the activist community. It's so deeply ingrained, white supremacy, that it even affects many within the activist community, and many who may consider themselves white allies or what have you. So, and we do have allies. We have white allies. However, these are white allies who understand that white supremacy is such a problem and has been such a problem in the United Snakes, that they will encourage brown and black folks to organize within themselves, because they'll be the first ones to say that brown people have to free brown people and black people have to free black people. They will be the first to admit that my white allies have committed national suicide, first of all. And what that means is they understand that they derive from the white nation, period. Even though they may be activists or consider themselves revolutionaries, they are the left wing of the white nation, but they are part of the white nation nonetheless. But my white allies will admit to have committed national suicide, meaning they work every day to undermine their own nation, the white nation. And they do that by assisting and supporting um, Chicano nation, black nation, and other oppressed peoples to overcome their oppression. That's their job. That's their role. And they do that. And some of them do it every single day, and they dedicated their lives to doing that. So we do have white allies, but they'll be the first to tell you, no, don't trust the white nation. Don't do that. You guys have to organize yourselves. You have to, you can organize with other allies. That's fine, but the Chicano nation has to liberate the Chicano nation and work together with others in a united front, other oppressed peoples. But ultimately, the Chicano nation has to organize in the Chicano community, as does the Black nation in the Black community, the First Nations in the First Nations community. So revolutionary nationalism, we believe that we do have to organize our people. We do have to practice our culture. We do have to maintain our cultura. We have to, because by doing that, we do draw a line of demarcation between us and the oppressor nation, the United Snakes. So it's important that we continue to do that. However, we have to the difference between revolutionary nationalism and cultural nationalism is revolutionary nationalism understands that we do have to attack the economic point of oppression in this society, which is capitalism, and we have to counter that. And our goal is to strive for a socialist government, and under socialism, there is no private businesses, there is no private property where, one person can own a factory and exploit the labor of all of the workers. It doesn't work like that. And in a socialist society, the industries are nationalized, and everybody benefits from the profits. Everybody benefits from the profits, and they're not going to fuel a war machine like here in the United Snakes. And so we do want that equality in all of our society, and only socialism brings that. Capitalism puts profits before the people. So revolutionary nationalists understand we do want our independence. We want our own society. We want to practice our cultura, promote it without white supremacy. We want to form our own government. We want independence. We want national liberation, but we want self-determination, not just to have parks named after us and our dance hall named after one of our people so we can go every Saturday and dance for an hour. No, we want more than that. We want independence, self-determination, all the way up to having our own government, to having our own standing army. We want our own economy. We want to handle our own resources on our land. This is what revolutionary nationalism is striving for, and we do want a socialist government. And in striving for these things as revolutionary nationalists, we understand that there is a higher goal. And we will, and we do work with other oppressed nations people in obtaining the same goals and objectives of overturning capitalism. And so, in the beginning, cultural nationalism and revolutionary nationalism may exist for a certain time, but ultimately, you know, one cannot exist with the other. Revolutionary nationalism would never, allow cultural national bougie nationalism to exist. Because it is poison. And they are brown capitalists or wannabe capitalists. Their thing is to come up. They want to fatten their pockets any way they can off the labor of our people. Want to profit off the people. And so we're against that. And so revolutionary nationalism, this is the goal. This is what we're striving for. And this is to strive for a society without oppression, to strive for a government that doesn't profit off its people, a government where things like healthcare are free, things like education is free all the way up to university, as it is in Cuba. Let me just say, in Cuba today, they do have free healthcare, free education, all the way up to university. This is what revolutionary nationalism strives for, and this is what we are working for. So, and it's a big difference between that and the cultural nationalists who, um, they won't provide free healthcare. They won't provide, they're all about coming up. You can just go to some of their events. You know them, you all know them in the city, wherever you're from. They have these events, and you can judge their character if they're all about profiting and coming up. When do they donate any money to the people? Do they donate any of their labor to the people? Or do they just invite people to their events and then try to profit on them, exploit their labor, have them volunteer for them, sell them stuff at exorbitant prices? I mean, you could tell the character of these cultural nationalists and a revolutionary nationalist. And the revolutionary nationalists, most of the time, they're giving everything that they have to build their community, to build their nation. And it's not about coming up or what I could get out this person, what I can squeeze out this person, how many hours of their life can I get them to donate to help me in my group or what have you. Revolutionary nationalism is organizing the Chicano nation, the Chicano community, not just to remember who they are, not just to embrace their culture, but also to begin to understand a different way of thinking, and to be politically educated, where they do understand that capitalism is bad and that we do need a socialist society where we can have access to things like healthcare, access to things like education, access to land, to housing, to all of these things that we don't get here in the US. We don't get it. But if we traveled to somewhere like Cuba, you'll be surprised that Cuba doesn't have homeless people. There is no homeless people in Cuba. There's not one homeless camp in Cuba. Why? Because the government is a socialist government, and what that means is it enables the people, the citizens of their country, to have housing, and to have health care. And if they need an operation, or they have some kind of disease that requires them to have a $1 million operation or what have you, they don't deny them. There's no insurance company saying they're in debt the rest of their lives. It doesn't operate like that. When Cuban children want to go to school, they can go all the way up to university. They can become doctors for free. Their education to become a doctor or a lawyer is free. And this is a third world country. This is a very poor country that has embargoes that the U.S. does not allow them to trade with other countries. They try to create an economic stranglehold on them to apply pressure so that they can stop building this socialist society. And so Cuba proves that even a poor country like Cuba, third world, um, that even they can provide their citizens, millions of citizens, with free healthcare, free, education, ensure they have housing, all of this stuff. They can do it. And here, this country that we currently are occupied under, we this is the richest country on earth, the richest country on earth. If Cuba, a very poor country, can do it, this country can certainly provide free healthcare for every single person, free education all the way up to a PhD for every single person, um, housing for every single person, because they make billions every year. But the thing is, instead of doing that, their profit goes into private bank accounts, and then it also goes into the military, to have these thousands of nuclear weapons and what have you. So this is the thing: is one country pours into the people, believes in our people are our most precious resource ever, and we give everything to them, and the other country pours everything into who's smart enough to create these come ups and these scams where they can fatten their own personal bank account the most, and then also to the military and to the governmental structure. So these are the two differences. And here's where the US really gets it wrong, is that what's going to happen is, when it comes to a war, when there is a war, and all countries face war at some point, they're going to learn that, on the one hand, the country that cared for their people so much, that gave them everything, they know that if their country would lose in a war, they would have nothing. These people are going to fight to the death. And on the other hand, you have a country that don't give a damn about its people, who millions are homeless, millions are in prison, who millions are stigmatized by criminal histories, or outright racism. That they're going to realize that many millions of these people in under their government are going to actually fight against them, because they have oppressed them for so many centuries, so many years. So this is what's going to come out in the end. So we're on the right side of history. We understand that revolutionary nationalism is the way to go. It's very important. It's the only way that's going to liberate our people. And cultural nationalism is just supporting the same unequal, lopsided system that it creates these oppressive conditions for people like the Chicano Nation, the Black Nation, First Nations people. So that's my take on revolutionary nationalism versus cultural nationalism. Free Aslan.